My name again, Aaron Drake. I'm the Medical Response Director for Alcor. And I want to start this topic by listing off some names that many of you will probably recognize and see if you can figure out what they all have in common. Jerry Leaf, Tanya Jones, the Chamberlains, Mike Darwin, Carlos Mondragon, Peter Voss, Stephen Van Sickle, myself, Catherine Baldwin. Other than obvious that they're all related to Cryonics in some way, what do those names conjure up? What collective action do they have? Anyone? Good try. They were really the people who were charged with and made the pledge to be at your bedside before your heart stopped beating. And that's not an all-inclusive list. I understand that. There have been a lot of people that have helped. But they're the ones that really took that active role and said, we're going to be there beforehand. Why is that important? Well, we've become to understand that time is really the most critical. Ashwin and Chana talked about it in their speech. They talked about the amount of damage that can occur to the brain because of time. The CT scans we have right up here that Steve Graber and Hugh Hickson have put together show the effects and the damage of time on the brain. Yeah, we can cool you really fast. Yes, we can restore circulation, restore oxygenation. We can administer medications, and they're all very important. I don't want to diminish them. They can have profound effects, but underlying all that is time. How quickly can we get you from pronouncement to perfusion? In the CT scans you'll probably see later on, you'll see 3 sets of scans that go from a patient that had a longer than 24-hour period of transport, and so no perfusion was done whatsoever. Another one where it took about 24 hours, and you can see that there's less damage. Another one where transport took 40 minutes, and there's minimal damage. So the closer we can get to your bedside, hopefully to be there after pronouncement or preferably even before pronouncement, before you take that last breath. What's the biggest fear that most chronicists have? Max said it perfectly. Dying alone, no notification. Maybe it's in your sleep. Maybe you live alone. Maybe your partner is out traveling. Maybe you're on vacation on some island and nobody knows about it. And you know what? Those are very valid concerns. Alcor has gone to great lengths to try to address some of those concerns. In the past few years, we've developed a watch list. We encourage our members to provide us with their health information. If something's critical, if they're having a procedure coming up, share that with us. I'm an advocate for that right now. But we've been trying to push this idea out for people. Let us know. We have this watch list. The watch list is a cloud-based set of information that all the members of the deployment committee can access from anywhere at any place, that gives all the information on our patients who are sick, who have something coming up. The information contains their past medical history, what their current procedure is, what hospital they're in, what room they're in, what's the phone number, who's their physician. We track these members regularly. We've had 3 in the past 10 days. We've had to watch very, very closely. So that's one of the ways we've addressed it. If you had to be cryopreserved, if one of your friends, if one of your significant others had been cryopreserved in the 1990s up through the late 2000s, you had about a 30% chance of having an Alcor team at your bedside. when you took your last breath. Less than 1 in 3. Since we started taking these additional measures, we started implementing the watch list. We started a much more aggressive deployment policy. We use suspended animation and their expertise to a much greater extent. We have a much more medically knowledgeable deployment committee. We can now boast that in the last 4 years, we've been at the bedside in 86% of the cases. And that's not some small sampling. Since I started in January 2009, we've added 27 patients to Alcor. So that is actually over a fairly large number when you consider we only have 112 in total. Well, how do we improve upon 86%? Well, obviously technology, the title of this particular topic will probably give you an idea. But realize the body is talking to us all the time. The body will actually tell us when we're going to die. And you probably say, well, Aaron, that doesn't really occur. Our body doesn't tell us. Well, it does. We just haven't had a way to receive that information. Sometimes our body will tell us in the form of chest pain. Sometimes it'll tell us in the form of a heart attack, a stroke. But realize these obvious signs are really the idiot lights on your car's dashboard. They're the idiot lights saying that the problem is already here and it may actually be too late. If we had a way to harness and collect and receive that biofeedback that our body is giving us, well, yeah, we could notify Alcor immediately and we'd hop into action and do this and that. But more importantly, you could get to the hospital. You could receive definitive care. And you would be able to correct something before it becomes uncorrectable. So what technology do we have? Well, there's a myriad of devices out there that collect all sorts of data on us. They now have devices, mobile devices, by the way, that can detect ECG, heart rate, respiratory rate, your skin temperature, your core body temperature. They have tri-axis accelerometers. They can measure galvanic skin response, your pulse oximetry. They have GPS. They can detect body position, fall detection, motion. These devices can be worn on your body, on your wrist, around your chest, around your waist. They can be implanted under your skin. They can be woven into the fabric of your clothes. These devices already exist. They're in use in fields currently unrelated to cryonics. In firefighting, they are beginning to use these where they're monitoring the physiological effects of fighting fires in a very stressful environment. In battlefield medicine, soldiers are giving this data back to remote physicians so they can assess conditions. 2 weeks ago, Felix Baumgartner did the skydive from, 24 miles up? They monitored his vital signs and the physiological effects of falling at supersonic speeds, 833.9 miles per hour. So these devices are already here. We just have to work them into Cryonics and fit this application. So to talk more about what devices are out there, to talk more about more of a business model that might be able to include Cryonics, I've got Ben Best, the former director of the Cryonics Institute, and Marine Rothblatt of the Terrasim Foundation. Please welcome them for me.
Can I have my presentation? Okay. At the beginning of this month, beginning of October, I stepped down as president of the Cryonics Institute. I'm still a director, and I'm now working for the Life Extension Foundation. And I apologize if there's some contradictions between the presentations that we give. We developed our presentations here independently. But I guess the first point is a chain is only as strong as the weakest link. And historically, less than half of cryonicists have arranged for standby have actually received standby deanimation. And most of those cryonicists who receive standby are people dying of cancer. And most people die of heart disease accounts for a large portion of deaths. And I have statistics here. One study found males aged 20 to 64, 32% of all deaths were due to sudden cardiac death, and 25% showed no prior sign of heart disease. Another study with an older segment of males, 45 to 75, found 60% of the sudden cardiac deaths had no prior evidence of heart disease. And after menopause, heart disease is the #1 cause of death in women, and is comparable to the rate in men. And so I return to this point, chain is only as strong as its weakest link. We have a lot of effort has been put into having well-equipped standby teams and perfusion teams and storage facilities and good training. Very little resources in the cryonics community have put into this first one. That's not to say just because, one of these others could still be the weakest link, but there certainly hasn't been many resources put into this particular link of the chain. I've for many years been concerned about our elderly cryonicists living alone. Cryonics Institute patient Hugh Hart died on a Friday and was not discovered until the following Monday. I understand Alcor patient FM 2030 spent about a week in his apartment before it was discovered that he was dead. And there have been many, many other cases of this nature. And Brooke Norton is here at this conference. He tried to start a program of cryonicists daily calling cryonicists who live alone. He had a lot of problems, and I encourage people to talk to Brooke about this if they want to learn more. But daily calling is really not going to dramatically reduce this ischemic injury. And even for cryonicists who are not living alone, a cryonics-friendly spouse could awaken to discover their cryonics spouse dead in their bed after many hours. And I know one CI activist was discovered by his spouse lying on the floor of a room in their house. He had been dead for hours. Panic button systems can help. Some elderly cryonicists have lain on the floor, and they could have been saved just by a panic button system. A button they can push and to alert both cryonicists and cryonics organizations, as well as 911. 911 is actually it's good to call 911 because they can give chest compressions and ventilations even if the heart is already stopped, because there's been no pronouncement of death driving to the hospital. And then the death can be pronounced at a hospital, and then the cryonicist can be also rushing to the hospital and begin cooling. So Life Alert is one of the biggest panic button systems around. They have a large call center, 600 employees in the United States. They claim to save one life every 11 minutes. And they can call 911, local cryonicists, and anybody else in their call list, and they can help filter out false alarms. So it would be better to monitor vital signs, though, than to require a panic button system or require the victim to be alert and be able to press a button. So what kind of vital signs? Well, movement. We got accelerometers, bed alarms that will alarm after X minutes of no movement. But of course, people often get out of the bed in the night to go to the bathroom, or there could be a spouse or pet in the bed, and that can make it difficult. We've got respiration detectors and heartbeat. So I think the desired features I'm trying to look and see what would we want in an ideal system. And I think an ideal system would give us rapid detection of loss of vital signs, preferably heartbeat, comfortable and convenient to use even when bathing, send messages by phone numbers to email, preferably to a call center to help filter out some of the problems, a GPS identified and transmitted with a message, and low power consumption so that it could last at least a day and be convenient to recharge, and wirelessly operational anywhere, and false alarms minimal and easily handled. So I've been hearing for 15 years, over 15 years, that all this is coming soon. The technology is trivial, and there'll be soon a consumer product on the market that cryonicists can use, and we don't need to create the product ourselves. And I've seen many cryonicists attempt to create products, but without much success so far. There's certainly products on the market of various kinds. This is one product. It monitors ECG, blood oxygen, blood pressure. It's portable. It does require prescription. It's not very comfortable or convenient. Here's a cardiac telemetry system. It's worn on the chest to detect arrhythmias. They have a call center. Only physicians can use it, however. They got the MyPulse system, monitors heart rate, can send automatic phone messages to phone numbers when the heart rate is low. It requires wearing an uncomfortable chest strap. And you have to have a computer and phone line close by, but the computers are becoming smaller and more mobile, and there's getting to be more mobile communication. No GPS, but it is available to consumers without prescription. One of Dennis Cryonut, that's what he calls himself. He's a Toronto cryonicist, and he started a Yahoo group called Cryonics Vital Signs Alerts. And in addition to trying to track what's available, he wrote his own Android accelerometer that sends a message if there's no movement. It's on your cell phone, and it gives GPS location with one block, which is, I mean, if you know the exact location, if it's a person's staying in their home, an elderly person that's housebound, just knowing the block would be sufficient. Anyway, last summer I visited him, and he put his application on my Android phone. It didn't work, even though it worked on his. He says he's fixed the problem now, but anyway, we'll see. And then Blake D. is a cryonicist. That's what he calls himself. He's got a life monitor, CryoWiki. He wrote an application that requires users to send an email message every day. So if there's no email message that's sent on a given day, a distribution list will be sent an alert. So it's similar to daily calling, more automated. Obviously, 1 day of ischemic time is very long, or even half day. Now there's a lot increasing number of wireless devices, as Aaron mentioned, on the market. Diabetics can have their blood checked wirelessly. Warnings can be sent with these detectors. And now, actually, in 2012, we finally have a heart rate monitor that can be worn like a watch. It was the athletes who were driving this, that they wanted this device, and finally they have it. You can go to alphaheartsrate.com to see it, but of course it's not sending out warnings or giving us all the other things we want or giving GPS and all that. There's still many pieces to be put together to get a system that we really want and is going to help us. Linda Avey was one of the founders of 23andMe. She resigned and recently became the founder of Curious Incorporated, founder and CEO. She doesn't want to just do genotyping as 23andMe does, but blood samples, telomere length, performance data, moods. It's all part of the movement towards the quantified self, getting as much data as possible on a person. And she's currently looking for a convenient wearable data sampler, sort of similar to the glucose monitor, to get lots of data about a person that could be used similar to the 23andMe or added to the 23andMe data. If we get enough data, with enough data, we wouldn't have to have unpredicted sudden cardiac deaths. We'd know enough about know enough about a person and their physiological state that no events would be unpredicted. So there's a lot of evidence. I think we won't have to wait another 15 years for devices that'll be useful for cryonics. Martine, do you want to?
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Aaron. So my presentation will, I think, build very much on what Aaron gave us a great 30,000-foot overview, and then Ben gave us a great deep dive into what's going on. I'd like to focus first on what's really the problem to solve here. It's there's a combination of trends towards spending a greater percentage of one's time alone. It's now, according to surveys that have been done, about 50% of a person's time is spent alone. Experiencing legal death outside of a hospital setting. I was surprised to see that that's now reached up to 25%. There's the ever-present need to sleep, as Ben mentioned. A lot of these events occur during the sleep, 33% of the time roughly. And increasing, and the evidence of sudden cessation of heartbeat, which is about 14% of all legal deaths are due to sudden cessation of heartbeat. So here's a couple of slides to let you look at sort of what the trends are in this area. And you can see that over the past 15 years or so, the number of people who are spending time alone has been increasing quite a bit. The older people tend to spend more of their time alone, but even younger people on average spend about 40% of their time alone. And it's not just people who are single, people who have partners also spend about 40% of their time alone. This is some backup data with regard to the percentage of people who are dying at home versus in a hospital type setting. And it's pretty striking over the past. The blue is the people dying at home, and the red, the blue is from back in 1989, and the red is 2007. So the first two bars, you could see that just from 87 to now, a lot more deaths are occurring at home rather than at hospitals. And similarly, the percentage of people dying in hospitals are shrinking. So I think this problem is worth solving for us as a cryonicist community, because we've got, as mentioned, about 25% of legal deaths occurring outside of a place of continuous ECG monitoring, in other words, at home. And when people are not alone, they have about an 8% chance of a heartbeat loss being undetected. If you combine together the different probabilities, as I've done in this page here, take into consideration the amount of time that we're alone, the chances of getting a sudden cardiac failure, the chances of deaths occurring outside of a hospital, and so on, you can put together this formula, which I did in the bottom chart. And the bottom line is that about 2.9%, or about 1 out of every 34 Alcor members, may suffer delayed cryopreservation activity simply due to delayed notification of a heartbeat cessation. And the specific anecdotes that Ben shared with us, I think, lend some reality to that. So given that we are people that are trying to beat the odds, even for the long term, I think a 1 out of 34 chance of having, everything we're trying to do ruined just because of an undetected cessation of heartbeat is a problem we're solving. So I look at it as a SCA to SCA, is to minimize the time from sudden cardiac arrest to suspension cryonics with Alcor. And as Ben mentioned, there are solutions to this available today. There are what are called external beat detectors, both wired and Bluetooth type, that can detect when there is a lack of a heartbeat and wirelessly transmit that information via an iPhone. The latest technology is, in fact, getting easier and easier to wear. This model here has simply two little pieces that tape onto a person's chest. Each of these are about the size of a button. There are other devices, as Ben mentioned, that use watches. This particular model called the Rhythm just went on sale at at Apple stores and AT&T stores just this week. It provides dual redundant methods of detecting a loss of heartbeat, and it wirelessly transmits to an iPhone. I decided to ask a couple of companies that I knew what they would take to give us a device that had all the features that Ben mentioned. It's one thing to just take a device that athletes are using, and another thing to get one that has all the features that Ben mentioned. So one of the companies responded, and here they list the different features for an ideal detector of when there's a cessation of heartbeat and something that would notify Alcor. And it was nice to see that they said if we gave them a start right now, that they could have the product by March of next year. So I think that lends a lot of credibility to what Ben was saying, that we're not going to be coming soon forever, that things are around the corner. They wanted $1 million to both custom build this device that would meet all of Alcor's needs, as well as the software app that would run in an Android or an iPhone. So in the scale of things, and then each final device would cost about $200. So in the scale of consumer electronics manufacturing, this is actually a pretty modest and reasonable price to have something that would solve an important problem for the cryonics community. I sketch out in this chart here the kind of things we would want to consider in the app running on the iPhone. I think what would happen generally is we'd want something that you wore just on your wrist, sort of like the very cool Alcor band that Max is wearing right now, that has the new strap-based Alcor notification band that contains all of the information for heparinization and other emergency medical treatment. So we would want something that you wouldn't take off when you went to sleep, you wouldn't have to strap onto your chest. And as Ben showed, and as these new products like the Rhythm showed, this technology to detect loss of heartbeat is consumerizable right now. We have a bid from a company that will make it for us to our specifications. However, I think that information probably needs to go into some kind of a QA/QC software process on the iPhone. There will be times when even people are hooked up with sophisticated EKGs, and even in a hospital, and people are arguing over whether there's a heartbeat or not a heartbeat. I've had that situation when I saw my own father pass, and it took about 3 different nurses and doctors to come to a consensus on whether he had actually passed or he hadn't passed, whether there was any respiration or wasn't. And this was in a hospital, if I could call it, closed down, walk down to the Grim Reaper, I guess, facility. So I think, we just can't take the first message from a wrist-worn device that there's no heartbeat detected and start running all kind of red alarms. That would be called like a high false positive rate, and people would lose faith in the entire system. But you could write some software into here that would make repeated detections over a period of minutes, and try to and know the person's normal, have enough intelligence to know the person's normal heartbeat rate, and try to minimize these number of false positives. So once there was a detection of a cardiac arrest, I think the next thing that the app should do is to direct the phone to make a loud alarm. I think you still want to wait another minute or two before you rush to contact Alcor and send up a big false positive alert. And phones are great at making alarms. You can trigger the phone to say the app can have a canned message such as, we will be calling Alcor in 60 seconds. If you don't wake up and touch us, we'll be calling Alcor in 45 seconds. The men in the white coats will be arriving in 30 seconds. Get the F up. If after a minute of this, which is a short time given the amount of ischemia that the patient would suffer otherwise, the individual has not interceded, shown by this box here, and reset the phone, then at that point we can send out a text and call to Alcor as well as to others that the user sets up in the user settings right here in the QA/QC process. And each user can set the number of screaming alarms for as many as they want, the delay time for as much as they want. Let each person make their own choice. If too many false alarms are occurring, the user can reset these in the user settings. Finally, we would also have to have loud alarms for things like low power, so that we don't also get false negatives that the individual has a cessation of heartbeat and we don't say anything because the battery or the phone has run out of power. But this is not rocket science, writing this type of software. Ben mentioned that this gentleman up in Canada had written software that had, some subset of this functionality. I'm sure it could be done. This was a very qualified company I got the bid from. They could do it. I'm sure literally hundreds of companies could write this software. So as Ben mentioned, there are people out there doing similar things right now. There is the famous help, I've fallen and I can't get up people. They're actually still in business after a couple buying and sellings of them. And there's also a very jazzy new phrase called PERS 2.0. This acronym stands for Personal Emergency Response System 2.0. So it's actually a very hot area of consumer technology development to create these type of watches to detect heartbeats, associated call alert type of call outs. Now what they come with is a personalized website where you can have all of your own medical information that says something like call Alcor. So this is an active area of technology development. It's not just the sports watches that are under development. It's this life alert technology that's under active development. And a lot of that is because of the statistics I showed at the beginning, how very many people are living alone. So I thought that I would give a look at some different economic models to help Alcor decide whether it should just let the marketplace take care of this problem or get involved somehow itself. And Ben sort of, I think, asked that question as well. Should we just let things happen or should we get involved? One can charge for the app and the device. So we would have to charge, for example, $200 for the device to break even. Charging a lot of upfront money has not worked well in this market. Originally, some of those call alert people tried to charge $1,000 and $2,000 up front, and some of them got in trouble with the Federal Trade Commission for ripping off seniors. We could give the app and or the device away as a benefit of membership. That would be another reason why people might want to join Alcor, is that we give you this kind of quantified self device or this medical alert device. We could, adjust the membership dues for new members to cover that. We could give the app away and make it modifiable so that it's not just Alcor related. In other words, we can get a lot of people thinking about life alert sort of technology. We give it away for free. and having Alcor be notified is just one option, that might be a way to bring many more people into Alcor without shoving it down their throat. We could sell the app, or finally we could partner the app and device with one or more current PERS companies, personal emergency response system companies. I personally kind of like the last model the best because I think we can leverage off the big network that these existing companies have put in place. Right now, there are about 350,000 people using these personal emergency response systems like Call Alert. They run in, the market is growing robustly. It's growing at 15% a year. And if you do the rule of 72, as our good friend Rudy Hoffman showed us this morning, you'll see that by the end of the 20-teens, that will be 700,000 people. So it's a large number of people. They charge $20 to $40 a month. There's so much competition. They don't tend to make very much profit. Some of them go out of business. But if you add it all up, it's $250 million in revenue by the end of the 20-teens. That is something not very dissimilar from Alcor. In other words, trying to keep alive as long as possible using technology as our friend. I think that Alcor could partner with these companies, and by the way, there's actually more than 30 of them. We could offer our technology for sudden cardiac arrest detection with the phone app. Because we can't shove Alcor down everybody's throat, we could say to these different PERS companies that here's our technology in the app. It has a drop-down menu of who to contact. Contact, my preacher. Contact my kids. Contact Alcor. Contact 911. Be something that the user can set and choose. So it meets our needs, but it's also addressable to a very much larger market. The companies would like to maybe market this technology as a differentiator. They're all in very vicious competition with each other. It's almost impossible to really differentiate their technology. They're mostly now arguing over whether they cover 150 feet from the site of the bedroom or 175 feet. In most cases, they're now already 3 doors down from the neighbor. So they're competing over insignificant factors. Here we could give them something really unique, a sudden cardiac arrest detector, which none of them have right now. And then we could ask them to pay 50% of a premium price to Alcor. So instead of charging the 20 to 40 for their basic features, which they all charge, they could charge, for example, if you want the sudden cardiac arrest detector, which, by the way, addresses you have a 14% chance of having a sudden cardiac arrest and nobody knowing about it, that will cost you, $50 a month or $60 a month, $70 a month. And half of that premium could be paid to Alcor as a result of us making available this technology to them at no upfront cost. I plotted here what this could possibly mean to Alcor by 2020. If we ended up capturing just about 1% of the market, and charged just a very, very modest sort of premium of $20, it could mean $1.7 million a year coming to Alcor, nice recurring revenue month after month. If we were able to have them charge a premium of $40 for this sudden cardiac arrest detector, and we were able to capture as much as 8% of the market, would be a whopping $27 million a year coming to Alcor. So I think that this is an interesting area for us to explore, first because it meets a need that all of us as cryonicists have, and secondly, it's a way to bring more members into Alcor, give more awareness of Alcor, and third, it could provide an important source of revenue for the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Martine. Great information. We actually have time for questions, 5 minutes or so. We've got the microphone there, and Rudy's first up.
Yeah, great presentation, folks. Martine, I was intrigued with the potential of the market there. Given all these facts that you guys folks have provided, what is the next actionable step? Is it kind of in Alcor's court to court these 30 vendors, or what would be the next actionable step that we could potentially take?
I think that probably it would be a waste of time to go to these vendors without having something real, tangible, and working. So I think probably the best next step is to take Ben's list of desired features and to go ahead and perhaps stretch out through the Alcor network and find some individuals that could make this product and write this software for us in a top quality way, and aesthetically pleasing, Apple-friendly sort of way, and then have something that really works. And once it really works, then we go out to these vendors and provide non-exclusive rights to them, so we could end up signing as many of them up as possible. With the advantage to the earlier vendors who sign up is that they'll be the first ones in their area to offer this technology. A lot of these Life Alert companies are actually locally based companies. They operate just in a state or in a region. Some of them, like LifeCall, are national.
Very good. Bill?
Okay, I'm Bill Falloon with the Life Extension Foundation. We have about 300,000 supporters, many of whom would be very interested in this, whether they're signed up for Cryonics or not. And the selling point we would emphasize is stroke. So many people living alone suffer an ischemic stroke, and they just lay there while their brain is deteriorating. If 911 is called and a tissue plasminogen activator is administered within 4.5 to 5 hours, they can bust open a clot in the brain and they don't suffer permanent disability or death. So this has so many features that would be of interest to health-conscious people, many who are living alone. You're certainly welcome to use our name, Life Extension, as a potential client. And we would publish an article in our magazine and emphasize to our members all the desirable features this provides. And would it provide the opportunity for a stroke if they could just maybe push a button on the app? Because a lot of these people can move a little bit, but they just can't get up to go to the phone.
Yeah, all of these things can be done, and as you point out, Bill, this is, Alcor really is at the right time, at the right place for this. The technology, as Bill pointed out, it's taken 15 years to get here, but it's here. This PERS is a real area of great interest for companies. Nobody has really come up with the right business model to reap the greatest rewards from it. And I think Alcor would be well placed to do so. But the beautiful thing about it is that by Alcor serving the core needs of our own members, namely trying to avoid this situation of being caught with a cessation of heartbeat or cessation of brain function and nobody knows about it, we can cut down that period of time. And if we do it in the right way, in a way that we kind of piggyback on a technology that reaches out to millions of Americans, we can bring many more people into Alcor pretty much through their curiosity initially. And at the same time, there's plenty of money being spent in this market, $250 million a year, to even a small percentage of that would provide a lot of ongoing income to Alcor.
Yeah, tremendous. We would support that 100%.
As far as the push-button system, though, that's already available. The Life Alert, as I said, the Life Alert company claims they save one life every 11 minutes. And Guardian Alarm, it's a push-button system with a mic, and Guardian 911, it automatically calls 911. And you're speaking with a 911 operator. These systems exist as far as push buttons.
Oh, I do understand that. It's just promoting it for stroke emergencies.
Yeah,
this is where people
we're talking
will lay
about
around.
Vital signs as opposed to push button, panic button systems. That's the big distinction we're making.
We'll
See, the
work
problem
out
is
the
the
nuance.
problem right now is that there's no real good business opportunity in this Life Alert business, because all of there's like these 30 different companies in vicious competition with each other. None of them are making very much money. Many of them go bankrupt. In fact, many of them make money only by franchising their operations. So what's needed is for somebody to come with something that allows one of these competitors to begin differentiating themselves from their other competitors. SCA is perfect made, sudden cardiac arrest is perfect made for that product differentiation. And people will pay extra for that differentiator. It makes the vendor motivated to sell our product, and then we benefit from that.
I concur, and I just want you to know you have our support in promoting it, so it'll reach
Great.
out to a lot of people real fast.
Great, Brian, can we get you in real quick?
I'm wondering how one markets a sudden cardiac arrest detection system to non-cryonicists. What would the narrative be? Would the concept be that the system detects that your heart stops and then an ambulance would be called and then you might be able to be resuscitated?
Precisely, yeah, precisely, because it's the same sort of argument that people use for marketing defibrillators and all that sort of stuff, that in many places emergency response times are less than 10 minutes and sometimes even shorter. Sometimes neighbors have defibrillators. There's defibrillators on floors of apartment buildings. So it's the exact same reason why people have the "I fall and I can't get up" thing. Here's a chance to be saved.
I just think that could be the weakest point, the argument that EMS response could be fast enough.
Well, the reason we have 911 is that people observe someone else who's fallen, who's had something, event happen, and is called 911. There's a big system existing for that purpose.
But they also
So-
administer CPR, and if the victim doesn't get CPR, I
Well,
think
the
they're-
idea is they call 911. Yeah, they're initially CPR until the 911 arrives, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And
Beyond a
without
doubt,
that-
the first thing that we at Alcor would want somebody to do, who is one of our members, would be the text should go out to Alcor, the text should also go out to 911. So I think everybody wants the same thing here. But again, the beautiful thing about this in the financial model is we don't need to have 100% of the people who buy Life Alert to buy this SCA system. As few as 1% would produce a significant amount of income to Alcor.
I think we have time for one short question. Last one.
Assuming in this group of specifically interested and possibly well-heeled people, you do not find the people you need to get the seed funding for this, what's stopping you from doing crowdsource funding like Kickstarter if it falls through and you can't get an immediate partner? Is there something that's stopping that?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question.
You're familiar with Kickstarter and crowdsource funding?
Yes, oh yes.
Okay. Assuming no one walks up to you with a checkbook or you don't find a partner, what is stopping you from using one of those?
And that's a question for the Alcor board.
Okay. Just putting it out there. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. I think it's a great topic. Thanks for including it, Max.